Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome viewers to another episode of the Ark of Noah. This is a series in which we've been discussing the greatness of Islam, and we've been discussing the situation of the Ummah and the great blessings that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has bestowed upon this Ummah. And during the series, in the next few episodes, we're going to be discussing the threats that are very apparent, very real, to all of the believers in their journey towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And hopefully you will draw a lot of benefit. And of course with me in the studio for this series is Sheikh Moutasem. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, Sheikh.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Welcome back, welcome once again.
Thank you very much.
Pleasure to have you on the set with us.
The pleasure is mine. Jazakallah.
Sheikh, we've been discussing a variety of issues. The greatness of Deen, the greatness of Islam, the blessings that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has bestowed on this ummah. And now we're gonna venture into the dangers of that threatens us, that threatens our belief, and that threatens our journey towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Let's start from way back in time. And let's start in this episode and discuss around Shaitan and his role in leading astray the believers. Can you tell us a little bit of background about Shaitan? And perhaps we just need reminding. Who is Shaitan and what is his role?
Yes, thank you very much, Abdullah. It's very important to know Shaitan, and it's a very crucial knowledge and very practical and very helpful in our way to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because our relationship with Shaitan goes back to the beginning of time, the beginning of our creation. Just taking a historical background, our history with Shaitan starts right from day one, when Adam was first created, and before Allah blew the soul into him. Shaitan saw the body of Adam and he walked around him and he checked him out, he sensed him out. And he realized that he was hollow, meaning that he has an inner passage and outer passage. And he realized that the creation of Adam was special. So this is a special creation. Allah has honored Adam. Allah has given Adam so many qualities that he hasn't given to other creatures. So Shaitan, the first thing Shaitan said, if I'm giving power over you, I shall destroy you. So from day one, Shaitan started that enmity. This is how it started at the beginning. And actually we have a long history with him, but that was the beginning. That was the first encounter between Shaitan and Adam.
SubhanAllah. I didn't actually know that myself. But and when is this? Is this the first signs of his arrogance?
Yes, that was the first sign of his envy. Of his envy, more specifically. Okay. And obviously it stems from his arrogance. And actually it developed when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala blew the soul into Adam, and he said to the angels, or commanded the angels, to prostrate themselves before Adam as a sign of respect. They prostrate to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but Adam was the direction of that prostration as a sign of honoring Adam.
Sheikh, is this, could we read in this that this is another sign of the greatness of Adam alayhi salam, that the other creations that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has created were making sujood, or were bowing down to prostrate to Adam?
Definitely, definitely. This is a very clear, a very symbolic kind of incident and meaning that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala caused or commanded the angels and others as well. But what says in the Quran, the angels, Allah commanded the angels. Shaitan was with them, but he wasn't actually an angel. Probably we can touch on this later on. Allah commanded them to prostrate themselves before Adam as a sign. It's a message to both Adam and to the angels and to the rest of creation that this creation of mine is very special.
SubhanAllah. Such a position, huh?
Yeah.
So Sheikh, just bringing you down to what you mentioned in who Shaitan is. You mentioned there that there is some confusion as to what exactly Shaitan is, and even in I think the Quran, it's mentioned specifically a number of times who he is. Can you just highlight exactly, because many people, especially outside of Islam, they're confused as to who he is?
Yeah, actually, even among Muslims, there is a great deal of difference or disagreement about the reality of Shaitan. But the most correct opinion, because it is compatible with all the verses and all the hadith that talk about shaitan and his history, that shaitan is not an angel, and he was never an angel. Just as Adam is the father of humans, shaitan is the father of jinn.
Because this would go, being an angel has a different set of qualities entirely, right?
Definitely, yeah. And even shaitan himself says, when he refused to prostrate himself before Adam, he said to Allah, you created Adam from clay and you created me from fire. But angels are not created from fire, they're created from light. So he's definitely not an angel. He's the father of the jinn, just like Adam is the father of humanity. That's it.
So, Shaykh, in terms of the Quran and Sunnah, can you bring any ayat or hadith where shaitan and his role is described? Of course, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and Rasulullah came to describe him.
It's definitely, shaitan is repeatedly mentioned in the Quran, and if you read through the Quran, you will notice how much importance and how much attention has been given to the issue of shaitan and the challenge of shaitan. And obviously Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala summarizes that in a very clear verse when he addresses the humans, and he says, Inna shaytana lakum aduwwun fattakhiduhu aduwwa. Shaitan is an enemy to you, so take him as an enemy. This summarizes our relationship with shaitan.
Yeah, and we will definitely touch on that, because I think that's probably the key aspect.
Obviously, it is.
Now the thing is shaitan obviously is a threat to the believer, and I've heard through the Muslims that people are saying that shaitan is a scholar. What have you got to say about that?
I don't agree on using the word scholar, because usually the word alim in Arabic is translated into English as scholar, and the word alim means he's a person who has the knowledge and acts upon that. So he puts this knowledge in practice and he abides by that knowledge. But we can say shaitan is an expert. He's an expert. Okay, he understands humanity. He's got a long experience, thousands of years dealing with humanity, seducing them, tempting them, and sending them to the way leading to the hellfire. So obviously he's got a huge experience. He's got the expertise to send people astray. So unless we equip ourselves very well to deal with him, we might not be able to preserve the great gift which you referred to, which is the religion of Islam.
So in terms of to what extent does he pose a threat to the believer? I mean, how powerful is he? Or I mean, well, he doesn't have any power himself, that's right, but how much of a force is he to be reckoned with?
This is the this is the paradox of shaitan. Shaitan in himself has no power over us as human beings.
I think this is worth remembering, isn't it? Because
definitely,
he doesn't have any power, so he's not an excuse.
Yes, unless you empower shaitan over yourself, he will have no power over you. Allah says, "Inna kayda ash-shaytani kana da'ifa." That the plotting of shaitan, the ability of shaitan to deceive others, is actually, in reality, in itself, per se, it's weak.
Subhanallah.
So shaitan is not powerful, and unless you empower shaitan over yourself, he stands no chances of taking the better of you.
The location of shaitan. Now, I've heard from, again, conversations that shaitan has a kursi, a chair over the sea. How authentic is this?
The narration is authentic, obviously, and the narration just goes about that shaitan sets his throne over the water, over a body of water. And
can we call it a throne?
Well, it's a self-made throne. So he enthroned himself. That was it. So he, in his false pride, he creates for himself that kind of atmosphere, that kind of air, that kind of kingdom. Obviously, his followers support him in that. But in reality, it's just it's fake. It's fake because ultimately it's going to send him to the hellfire.
And is he sending other shayateen from that place?
Definitely, he's sending his shayateen, his servants, all around to spread mischief, to send the people astray. And he will be obviously, he will be the happiest when a person splits husband from wife, when he splits them up, because shaitan knows that once father and mother split, the son and the daughter, the children, are very likely or are more prone to go astray because of the psychological impact.
I mean, it's interesting you say that, because the father and the mother is the crux, the link pin in society. And if that's broken, I often think about it, if that's broken, then, you know, society then breaks down.
That's the backbone of society. If you break it, I mean, you've destroyed society. That's true.
So these shayateen that shaitan is sending from, you know, let's say the big shaitan, he's sending these other shayateen, the plural of shayateen.
Yeah.
Can they take other forms? What form do they take?
Well, in our time, after the Prophet ﷺ, they usually what they do is whispering. Just try to tempt people, try to cause you some kind of an inner conflict. It's an internal kind of conversation. They tempt you to do some things. So they try to manipulate your thoughts and your desires.
But when I say form, I mean, can they sort of, let's say, possess a person? Can they come in a form other than the sort of hidden ghaib or the hidden...
Yes, shayateen can come in different forms because jinn generally have been given the ability to take different forms. So they can actually, the Prophet ﷺ told us clearly that if you see a black dog, that's a shaitan. A black dog is a shaitan. And there are some incidents, and they are authentic, that shaitan came in the form of a human being. Sometimes they do that. And they can take the forms of animals as well. They can take the shape of an animal.
Because sometimes I think, you know, I'm looking at a person who's perhaps committing, or I just look at him and I think, this person looks like shaitan is all around him. I mean,
some people could be possessed by shaitan. That's something very clear in the Quran and the Sunnah. It is very clear, although some people doubt it, but the evidence is there, and this is a reality. Shaitan, jinn could possess a human being, and they could, but that's a long process because you have to do so many mistakes and many sacrifices for shaitan, and then you get to that stage.
So there's levels of let's say disobedience and farness, if you like, from Allah.
Yeah, you have to go too far to get to that stage where you will be very weak, for sure. Shaitan can overcome you.
Thank
you very much.
We have been discussing shaitan. I hope you've benefited. We're going to take a short break. We'll be back with more. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Europe's forgotten heritage.
This is a sad reminder of the past history of the Muslims in the city. Nowadays, there are no Muslims anymore. These are the mosques that have remained. And it is really sad.
Wait a second, this is Morocco. No, this is Tunisia, Algeria, North Africa, Egypt. No, this is all Europe, and this is all part of Spain. Islam spread first in Africa, and then from Africa it came over to Europe, and then it did developing work in Europe. Now, we look the other way around nowadays. The compass was invented by the Muslims. Many important inventions came from the time of the Muslims on the Iberian Peninsula. Instead of people becoming less in battles, as we normally know, as we know in battles obviously people die, but no, what was happening? The Spaniards recognized and realized the superiority of the Muslims and the treatment that the Muslims gave to the Christians and the Jews in Spain at that time, that they happily accepted Islam, many of them.
And Ottawa Fountain, as we've seen it before in other places in Greece. Now, it has some Arabic on top, as well as it had some Arabic down, where the tap used to be, or where the water was coming out.
Pack your bags, grab your passports, and join Dr. Steph Karis as he takes us through Europe and rediscovers Europe's forgotten heritage, only on Hoda TV.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome back, viewers, to the Ark of Noah. We've been discussing shaitan. We've had a fairly very helpful insight into who shaitan is.
Inshallah.
Sheikh, I want to touch now on the extent, we've talked a little bit about the threat of shaitan, but how does he really threaten us? How does he work? Where does he go? What things does he come? How does he get at us? What does he do?
Yes, very good. Shaitan, as we said, is powerless. Originally, shaitan is powerless. And unless you give shaitan the opportunity to overtake or overrun your system, he will not be able to send you anywhere. Shaitan doesn't hold you from the hand and tell you, okay, go drink alcohol, go commit zina or do this sin.
And that was what we were saying, he doesn't have any power.
He doesn't have that power. But unless you open your guard, you're off guard, and you allow shaitan in, then shaitan definitely is going to manipulate and use that opportunity. So what shaitan really does, he says that when he challenged Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, when shaitan refused to prostrate himself before Adam, and Allah expelled him out of paradise and out of his mercy, shaitan said, I shall approach them from the front, from the back, from the right, from the left, from all directions. Shaitan is going to approach. So he will not save any opportunity to send people astray. So shaitan always senses your heart. As Ibn Abbas, may Allah be pleased with him, said, shaitan will always sense the heart and see whatever you are inclined to, and he will utilize that.
Subhanallah.
Yeah. That's a very brief description of how shaitan works with human beings.
So can you give us a few examples, perhaps in modern day life, of the sort of things we are tempted by now? And because you mentioned temptation, seduction, perhaps there's envy, perhaps there's jealous. Can you give us a few different types of things that people may be tempted to fall into and typically are tempted to fall into?
Yes, generally human beings are created and are naturally inclined to certain things. For example, sexual desire, possession, to possess and have things, own things. People have, for example, a natural tendency to excellence, to greatness, to have a contribution. Shaitan manipulates all of this. These are given to human beings in order to serve a noble purpose. Even our sexual desire is given to us, so it serves a noble purpose, and that is the continuation of the human race. So we worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we continue by that. Even the desire for food is meant to keep us alive and to strengthen our bodies. And even the desire or the tendency to become great and to have a contribution and even to have a reputation, originally this is all good, and it is meant to help you get somewhere on the way to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Shaitan uses that desire and he tries to get it off track. So and once he gets hold of this power, of this direction or this inclination, he tries to use it in order to send you to something that will bring harm to you.
So are you saying here that we should be, it sounds like to me that you're saying that we should be aware of the nature of the human, nature of ourselves.
Definitely.
And perhaps maybe by extension our individual weaknesses. How important is the knowledge of the self and the weaknesses that perhaps we each individually have to in combating that?
Yes, just realizing that we human beings generally express our talents in the form of needs. This is what psychologists say, and this, I believe, is Maslow was the first one to put it that way. Human beings have talents and tendencies, and these are, or these express themselves in the form of needs. So when someone feels hunger for knowledge, it shows that he has a talent, he has a head for knowledge. So this is why he's always inquisitive, he's always asking questions, very curious about things. So this is how we can discover a talent in a child.
So will shaitan play on this?
Definitely. What happens if someone is so much inclined to knowledge, shaitan will tell him, okay, you focus on knowledge because knowledge can make you great. And shaitan will beautify even knowledge for that person. But knowledge is meant for a person to know their way to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and to have their own contribution to humanity. So shaitan will tell him, okay, get that knowledge. Once you start to get it, shaitan will pump or will blow into the heart of that person, or will try to impart the notion that you've got knowledge now, so you are better than the others. You've got knowledge now, so you can pump your chest up because you're better than these ignorant people.
So how important is self-evaluation and doing your own hisab or doing your own reckoning? Is that important here?
It's definitely, and this is why the Salaf, the early generations of this ummah, have always given advice to their students. Always make what is called muhasabah. As Umar ibn Khattab said, حاسبوا أنفسكم قبل أن تحاسبوا. You judge yourself, check yourself out before you are checked out by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So we as human beings, as we said, we can always fall prey to shaitan. Shaitan can always take advantage of our weaknesses, of our tendencies and our ambitions. So we have to make sure that our intention is always for Allah alone. When we do something, I'm doing that for Allah alone. So shaitan doesn't take advantage of this.
Correction of the niyyah, correction of the intention
is very central in our lives.
And taking account of your own self and knowing your weaknesses.
Yes.
Is there anything else that can help us in the fight against shaitan?
Yes, something very important as well, in addition to the niyyah, is what you really do. Sometimes you want to do something good, or you have a good intention. For example, someone steals in order to help the needy. Now his intention is good, but his action is not good. So the end doesn't justify the means. And this applies to Islam. You can't say, I want to come up with new acts of worship because I love to worship Allah. Shaitan will definitely be pushing you that way, because he knows, even if your intention is good, he can't change your intention. He will get you somewhere else, get you to do something wrong. You think it's right. He will help you think it's right, but he will get you to do that thing which is wrong, and you will think you will be doing something good, but actually it's quite the opposite.
So evaluating yourself against Quran and Sunnah, we can say.
Yes, and this is what Al-Harith Al-Muhasabi, one of the early generations, used to say. He said, I've never done anything except after asking myself 2 questions. Why did I do it? Is it for Allah? If I'm okay with that question, or with that answer, I move on to the second question. Am I doing that according to the Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ or not? So he always asks himself this. Before he says a word, he asks these both questions.
SubhanAllah. It's amazing. Sheikh, now Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala described shaitan in the Quran, and of course through Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa Prophet sallallahu alayhi with some hadith. But before we just have a couple of those things, one of the things he did describe shaitan as is an enemy to mankind. Our idea of an enemy now in this world is, I think, perhaps in the modern world, is very passive. We are civilized supposedly to each other. Maybe there's a bit of enmity, but there's not like the enmity that there was at the time of Sahaba, when, literally if I stepped on a patch of land, then we'd have a tribal feud. So they really understood the idea of being an enemy. What is it to treat shaitan as an enemy?
Yes, the beautiful thing about Islam, Abdullah, is that Islam always likes to call a spade a spade. One of the characteristics about our time is using cover-ups and facades. What we have today, we see a lot of enmity, a lot of killing, a lot of hatred, but it's been given a mask, a beautiful mask, that it is a civilization, it is okay, it's liberating a country, but actually you're going to destroy that country and exploit its natural resources. In Islam, we call a spade a spade. You cannot live this life. That's the realities of this life. There's no absolute goodness. There are good people and there are evil people. Islam doesn't like to play with words. Islam gives everything its right name. So just as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talks about shaitan as an enemy, shaitan is an enemy. So unless we realize that, we won't be able to deal with shaitan. Now, if you don't realize who your enemy is or who you're dealing with, you will lose your way. The people behind the world, or the world order, or the new world order, they realize what they're dealing with, but they just give for public consumption what is called euphemism, beautiful words,
sound bites.
Sound bites, beautiful titles, but in reality it's not. They went to different countries to liberate that country, namely to liberate these countries, but basically it was only to exploit their natural resources, destroy some of their people and their infrastructure.
So how exactly should we treat an enemy?
We should treat an enemy as an enemy, that's it. It's very natural in human, it's a fitrah. When you know someone is there and he's just about, and his main goal is to destroy you, you will know how to deal with him.
So how important is being ready? Is that being ready and keeping your eye on what might happen, what you might be tempted by? That seems.
Yes, here I will share a story, personal story with you, Abdullah, and with our viewers. When I first played football, they call it in North America soccer, so no confusion there. When I first played football, I was 6 years old. I was in the playground, they put me in one of the teams, and the first time the ball was passed to me, before that I had always watched football matches, and I never realized there were two teams. I thought you just score in any of the goals. So I was happy to catch the goal, and I scored a goal, and it was in my own team, my team's goal. I was the only guy happy in the field. But because I didn't realize there was a competition, there were opponents, I scored against myself. Now, if we don't realize that Shaitan is our enemy, and we deal with him based on that, we'll keep scoring against ourselves for the advantage of Shaitan. It's the same thing.
Jazakallah khair, Sheikh. Thank you very much. Lovely to have you on the show once again.
Thanks a lot.
That concludes our episode, another episode of the Ark of Noah. We hope you benefited. I certainly have. We will see you again next time. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
There is no man more dear to me throughout the whole of history than the one who was sent as a guide, leading people from darkness to light. His message was simple and clear, that there is one God whom we must all fear, inviting people towards Allah. His name is Muhammad Mustafa. His name is Muhammad Mustafa.
Europe's forgotten heritage.
This is a sad reminder of the past history of the Muslims in the city. Nowadays, there are no Muslims anymore. These are the mosques that have remained. And it is really sad.
Wait a second, this is Morocco. No, this is Tunisia, Algeria, North Africa, Egypt. No, this is all Europe, and this is all part of Spain. Islam spread first in Africa, and then from Africa it came over to Europe, and then it did developing work in Europe. Now, we look the other way around nowadays. The compass was invented by the Muslims. Many important inventions came from the time of the Muslims on the Iberian Peninsula. Instead of people becoming less in battles, as we normally know, as we know in battles obviously people die, but no, what was happening? The Spaniards recognized and realized the superiority of the Muslims and the treatment that the Muslims gave to the Christians and the Jews in Spain at that time, that they happily accepted Islam, many of them.
And not over the fountain, as we've seen it before in other places in Greece. Now, it has some Arabic on top, as well as it had some Arabic down, where the tap used to be, or where the water was coming out.
Pack your bags, grab your passports, and join Dr. Steph Karis as he takes us through Europe and rediscovers Europe's forgotten heritage, only on Hoda TV. Hoda TV strives to bring you, our viewers, the best in Islamic programming. Please send your comments and suggestions to feedback@hoda.tv.
In the name of Allah, the All-Merciful, the Ever-Merciful, and blessing and peace be upon Prophet Muhammad. In this episode of Book Review, I am going, Allah willing, to review a book entitled Studies in the Language of the Glorious Quran, This book was published by Dar es-Salam, Cairo in 1425 after Hijrah, 2005 after Christ. And the book was written by myself. It includes 3 studies, namely, let me give you the names of the studies. Number 1, some apparently ungrammatical cases of gender and or number in the glorious Quran. Number 2, ellipsis in the glorious Quran. And number 3, generic and hyponymic uses of al-mar', the word al-mar', man, in the glorious Quran. I'll now review each of these studies rather briefly. The first one, with the title of Some Apparently Ungrammatical Cases of Gender and or Number in the Glorious Quran. There are some Quranic verses which are characterized by